Hello, friends. Welcome to today's daily devotion. I'm Kerry Wood from the Goldston Methodist Church in Goldston, North Carolina. And yesterday was a very long scripture text, the Song of Zechariah giving praise to God. Well, to balance off such a long passage yesterday, our passage today is quite short, just one verse, but it comes to us all the way from the very beginning of Scripture, the book of Genesis, chapter 3, verse 15. Hear now these words. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel. Now you're probably wondering, hey, Pastor, have you flipped off into insanity? What in the world does Genesis 3:15 have to do with Christmas? Well, give me a few moments of your time and I'll attempt to make this connection for you. For you see, the story of Christmas, the origin story of God's love for us, it doesn't start in a manger. It starts in a garden. When we go back to the first chapters of the book of Genesis, the first book of the Holy Bible, we are told not only the origin story of creation of all the universe, the sun, the stars, the moon, all life on this planet, but we are told the origin story of ourselves, human beings. Now, in the science fiction Marvel universe, there is a whole lot of attention given to the origin stories of these various superheroes. Well, the origin story for Jesus is much more powerful, much more richly nuanced than anything Marvel could ever come up with. For as God created everything as good. Genesis chapter 1 says that God made everything, and he said this was very good. Genesis 2 gives us the detailed description of how God made man and woman, male and female, in the image of God. We bear the image of God in our very humanity. And at the end of chapter 2, it says that Adam and Eve were living together in relationship with one another in the Garden of Eden, in a perfect relationship with God, their Creator, their Father, and there was no shame. I really wish the story stopped right there. Except, of course, if it did stop right there, where would you and I be in this moment? Would we even exist? Well, the story didn't stop there. Adam and Eve encountered the serpent. The serpent was the embodiment of evil. This is Satan taking on the form of a serpent. It is the wisest of all the animals in the garden, and it causes Adam and Eve to mistrust God, to take the serpent's words over God's words. And as a result, shame entered into the world because sin had entered into the world. Our origin story includes both the goodness of being created in the image of God, bearing God's very essence in us, and our destroying of the relationship with God. Sin is breaking the fellowship with God, choosing something other than God to be God. And most of the time, what we choose is ourselves. Well, as God is dealing with the consequences of what happened in Genesis chapter 3, he has words for Adam, he has words for Eve, and he has words for the serpent, aka the devil. And that's what Genesis 3:15 is. This is God's condemnation, God's expression of what is the result of the sin in the garden. And the result of the sin in the garden It's not chaos, which is what we would expect it to be. Instead, it is the revelation of God's plan on how to deal with us, how to deal with sin. And so God says to the serpent, I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head and you will strike his heel. And we see this unfolding in Jesus. For Jesus is the one who crushed the head of Satan, even as Satan attempted to bite Jesus' heel through the crucifixion on the cross. So what is the origin story of Christmas? It's how God had a plan to fix the brokenness that we introduced into God's creation. That is a love story. Thanks be to God, and I'll see you tomorrow for our next daily devotion.